And some of the things that we have to do every day that in terms of focusing on post-production is a simple slating. Now, slating is normally done by the camera department, but it's an essential thing for both camera and sound. So as the boom operator, you're always on the set, you're always close to these elements. Take it upon yourself to try and coordinate. Coordinate between the script supervisor, the mixer, and the second AC who's doing the slate to make sure there's not a lot of continual problems with it, because this is going to save post-production a lot of time and a lot of frustration. Overlapping. Now, overlapping is another area that really is the focus and concern of post-production. Because in production, truthfully, nobody really cares. The director usually doesn't care because, he's concerned about the energy and keeping the continuity with his acting. The actors don't really care because obviously it's easier for them not to worry about it. And in some ways, sound departments cannot care either because it's easy enough to mic the overlaps and make them all work. The problem is that no one is protecting editorial here. And editorial, the problem that comes in when you go to editorial is that the editorial process, the editor, will be forced to make cuts to make these overlaps work. It may not be cuts that he chooses to make. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is that portions of the scene have to be looped. And then the very worst situation is if they can't make it all work that way, they may have to loop the entire scene. And all of that because nobody really thought very much about overlaps. It seemed pretty much fun when we were on the set. Everybody was having fun. Everybody was into it. So just remember what's right and what's wrong in terms of overlapping. When two actors are not on the same screen together, it's a good idea to keep those things clean. They'll be able to do the overlapping in post-production. But don't get carried away with other people saying, oh, it won't be a problem, don't worry about it. So help post-production sound out. You'll ultimately be helping yourself out in terms of your soundtracks. So help everybody out and just sort of keep the director focused on the fact that it is important and that we do need to cover it clean and so on. Now, background sounds are probably, if I had to guess, one of the most difficult things in post-production to deal with. Or they can be very simple. And it's our job, and specifically it's the boom operator's job, to keep these background sounds minimal and consistent. And the mixer keeps the background sounds constant. Now, if we work together as a team doing that, then our tracks go into post-production and our tracks are seamless. The other side of that is tracks go in, maybe the dialogue is clean, maybe the dialogue is rather full and robust. But the mistakes that have been made is that the backgrounds are all over the place. The levels are all over the place. The character of the background is all over the place. This is the most difficult thing that they have to deal with. So you have to remember that your best tracks, your absolutely best sound, is going to be as good as your worst tracks. If you record 30%, 40% of great sound, and then you mix that up with 30 or 40% of mediocre sound and 5 or 10% of bad sound in there, when that goes into editorial and it's edited, it becomes one piece. And that one piece had to happen then right there at that time, in that space. And so the cuts have to be seamless. So what they'll do is they'll keep adding backgrounds, various characters to it, until they come to the level that their cuts are smooth. And so you go to the movie and you see your tracks and you go, wow, it didn't sound like that when we recorded that. But you see, it becomes that problem later on. So it's very important that you keep those things very consistent and as minimal as possible. Now, room tone wild tracks. Room tone wild tracks, those are editorial tools, obviously. They don't mean much to us, so we don't really care that much about them. But they are helpful. They're very helpful to doing what I was talking about, making smooth cuts, making things seamless. And with today's technology, it's a lot easier, I think. actually to deal with room tones. If you're working with people who allow you to do that, that's actually pretty good too. And editors love that. But today, certainly with the Diva, with the pre-roll, you have a lot of opportunity usually to get your room tones. That's assuming that you're working on a set that has some decorum of some sanity. So you're going to have to interface with the AD, make sure the AD understands your needs, make sure that you get this. Because again, this is an editorial tool, and what we do on production has to be thought of as an arm of post-production. So make sure you do that. Wild lines, same thing. If you know that a wild line is going to cover something, a slight mistake that happened, don't be afraid to say, listen, can we just pick up a wild line here quickly? It's going to be able to lay them in nicely. Record the wild line. You can record it in its ambience. You can record it at the right perspective that you want. Give it to editorial. And where you thought you screwed up, bam, they lay it in and they never know. So just think about all these kinds of things when you think about your daily workload. So laying the groundwork for good sound. Now this is basically where it all happens right here. And that is laying the groundwork for actually being able to do good sound. Because as we all know, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. It's just that simple. So what you have to do is lay the proper groundwork. And if you don't lay that proper groundwork, and you choose to work with things that you could control or should control, then you'll be forced to use techniques that may reduce some of those noises, may reduce some of it, but they probably will not end up being what would be considered really good production sounds. So when we're forced to do the other side of it enough, we are always forced, no matter who we are, no matter what job we're working on, we're all forced to do the mediocre job, now and again. We just are. And we do it to the best of our ability. We do what we perceive to be the best sound for that situation. But when you have the opportunity, lay the groundwork for being able to do good sound. The first thing is rid your environment of noises. If noise can be controlled, it should be controlled. And that is everything. That's ballast, that's dolly tracks, that's noisy feet, that's traffic that shouldn't be going. There's all kinds of things that we need to control when we are out here, working. So establishing a good working relationship with the crew members. This is extremely important. This is probably, some people, maybe myself, I don't know, will have shortcomings, I guess, in this, but you really do need to have excellent social skills when you're on a set. Because every department in a filmmaking process interfaces with the sound department. And we're the only department that is standing out there alone on an island, so to speak. We need to be able to get a relationship going with all the different crew members. The director, for example, is an obvious one, because you're going to have to work with him in terms of actor levels. You're going to have to work with him in terms of overlapping situations, things like that. ADs are a primary source of a crew member that we are, as sound people, continually working with. They need to interface with us for sound lockups. They need to deal with background, the pantomiming. All the things that we need to have facilitated has to go through the AD department, most of the time. So we need to have a good relationship with your AD. Make sure that he understands that everything you're doing is for the quality of the film. And if you really have a good relationship with him and don't have an adversarial relationship, for the most part, you will be able to get almost everything you need done. And then there's the camera department. The better you interface with the camera department, the easier your job is going to be. As boom operators, and as sound teams in general, no matter what we think, we're very dependent on the camera department. And they can do a lot of things that make it difficult on your, on your life and your job. So make sure that you interface with these departments in a way that you're facilitating getting all these things done. And always remember that filmmaking is a collaborative effort. So when you interface with other crew members, your job is no more important than theirs. I mean, every job is important, and we have to respect that. So if you respect that and deal with them in that way, you will generally always get the feedback, you will get the help you need. But as soon as you start acting as if what you're doing is so much more important than what they're doing, I mean, you will find a block go up right away. And possibly for the rest of that film, you'll be struggling to get things that you need. And there's, sometimes it seems like simple things. Like with the electrical department. I mean, the first thing you want to do is interface with your electrical department. Have them understand that you don't want them to do extra work. You don't want them out there. You don't want to come in the last minute and say, listen, I hear the generator. So just get up front, in the beginning, that the generator will always have to be a certain distance away, so we don't have to always worry about it. They actually like that. They may complain and they may give you the old line about hearing grass growing, whatever else they give. But ultimately, they will really respect you because of it. Same thing with ballast. And I usually interface directly with the gaffers on this, and just let them know that it's important that their crew understands that they can't put ballast anywhere around the set. Because if they do, we'll all have to hold up shooting, and they'll have to move, and they'll have to complain, and people will have to look at the sound department for holding them up and all that kind of stuff. So get on their good side right away, knowing that you're preventing them double work. And they'll usually, I've found in the past that they will always, jump right on board. But like I said, it's a collaborative effort. We all have to give and take. And that's part of the give that they have to do in terms of controlling their noise on set. For example, they bring noise on set that we can't control a lot of times, which are the lights. The lights that are buzzing. Fortunately for most of us, and we should understand this, that frequency can usually be taken out. It's a frequency that's so high that it's not going to affect what you're doing a lot of the times. So that's the other thing, is that we should sort of know what we can. This gets back into post-production and what we should know about post-production. But we should sort of know the things that we can get away with so that we don't become so obnoxious on the set that they don't want to do anything for you. So sort of know that there are some things. Now, some lights are different. They have a lot of character to them, and you might not want that light around at all. But some HMIs have a very, very high frequency, and that frequency can usually be taken out. Yes, it's a little bit of work for post-production, and yes, it would be better if they weren't on the set, but unfortunately, the HMI is here, and we can't really probably do much about it as sound people.